My first question will go to Chief Moffitt. Back in 2013, you were named Chief of Police and District Security. How does your new role with Miami-Dade County Public Schools differ, and what are your projected outcomes in this role that will enhance school safety?
Thank you very much for that question. So I actually told somebody this the other day that when you're a chief of police, you're like a general that wears a uniform commanding troops every day, dealing with all the operational issues, trying to make sure that the schools are safe, dealing with manpower issues, dealing with policy, dealing with budget and finance issues. I find myself now in more of a diplomatic statesman role. I see myself like Colin Powell, where I've got to interact with politicians, interact with people within the district, people outside the district, Washington, D.C., the Capitol, and my role now is more of a statesman, where I say, hey, this is the direction we need to go, this is how we get there, and I need you to go out and get there, and hold everybody accountable for making sure that we do what we're supposed to do based on the state law. So it's more of a statesman role, more of a, like the State Department. So I see my role just like Colin Powell said it. Give up the uniform, trade in a suit.
My next question will go to the Honorable Dr. Dorothy Bendros-Mendenhall, School Board District 2. What's one school board policy that, with support of fellow board members, you would amend in an effort to eliminate any lack of achievement gap, to increase student achievement and also the graduation rates?
Thank you so much for the question. Bottom line is that's what we do all the time. We support each other. If you will notice, when someone brings a policy, 9 times out of 10, it's going to get the support of all board members. We make sure that it is something that's going to benefit the entire district. I mentioned earlier that I represent District 2, but I represent the entire school board, my school district. My voting legislative area is District 2. But the policy that you mentioned, of course, is the one that we're all working on now. When I first came on the board, in 2010, I had 7 F schools. Now I have none. You should clap for that. There aren't any. Now, which policy was that? That was a policy to make sure that we put in as much money as we can in all schools to have the best teachers. And I'm right now, I talked to Mr. Gainey, working on all the schools in District 2 to have a PTA. It might sound easy, but it is not. Some of our schools don't have parents who will come out and see about them. So the idea is that I visit 65 schools every year. I make no bones about it. I'm coming in, I'm going to observe the teaching, and I'm going to make sure. I think I should tell you, if you didn't know, I started my career as a teacher. And I've been an assistant principal, reading specialist, principal. I went up through the ranks to get to where I am. But in order for me to feel good about sitting on that board, every policy that comes through for our children that is mandated, that is given by a board member, and I know that it will affect and make the lives better of our children, I support it. Does not matter which board member brings it on, but now if it's not going to support all children, then I definitely will not buy into it. But all of our board members, we are nonpartisan. That's one thing you should know. We don't craft ourselves as Democrats and Republicans. We work together, and all of our policies that come about are designed, written to benefit all children. So therefore, we participate in all of those policies.
The next question will go to both Commander Thomas Butler and Assistant Chief J.D. Patterson. Since we have a lot of youth in the room, we're going to talk about human trafficking. Almost every country in the world is affected by human trafficking. As a matter of fact, Florida ranks number 3 in the nation as it relates to human trafficking. And according to recent reports, half of the sex victims in U.S. are 17 years old or younger. So the question is, what measures are you taking to address human trafficking in City of Miami and then followed by City of Miami Gardens?
In the city, can you hear me? No. In the City of Miami, we have investigative units that have totally stepped up in that area because, as you already stated, Florida is number 3 in the nation. And we take it extremely serious. So, of course, we have to educate. We have to make sure that our children understand that there are predators out there looking to take them and sell them. And if they get them away from wherever they are, it's harder for us to do what we need to do to get them back. But we have units that are set aside just for that, for human trafficking. So we work closely with the state attorney's office to make sure that we are putting all of our resource efforts in the direction that we need them to go in, because everybody's important. It doesn't matter how you got in the situation. Sometimes there's a misconception that, the person may have put themselves in this particular predicament. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We take it very serious, and that's why we've stepped up to add more resources and more education in that area as it pertains to human trafficking.
Thank you.
The Miami Gardens Police Department does very much the similar things that the city does. But I'm going to talk about the strategies that we take. One of them is prevention, another one is intervention. One is education, and then enforcement. We want you to know as youngsters just how vulnerable you are. So we do that by having juvenile programs in the department that reach out to juveniles. So that way you don't take for granted your importance to us or to your parents or to our society. So you've heard most of us talk about what drives us as youth, and that's true. So our programs or our preventive measures are designed to give you value, to make you understand just how important you are, whether it's through our explorers, whether it's through like a crime watch group, whether it's through anything that we do to reach out to youngsters. Because the primary victimization, I think you just said, is 17 and below.
Yes.
So we want you to understand just how important you are from a preventive standpoint. Because we realize when we do in fact have these kind of cases, one of the major assets that they substitute is your vulnerability and your lack of value to yourself, your self-esteem issues. So we do all we can to build you up. We are, again, actively involved with the State Attorney's Task Force. We are members there. We basically support any citywide, countywide effort to identify these groups and to actually go in and actually arrest them when we can find them. And I'm just going to point this out as well, because a lot of these groups sometimes reach beyond even the boundaries of Miami-Dade County. One of the biggest areas for it is Sarasota, I believe, and Clearwater. So the bottom line is we go all over the state if the investigation leads us there. And we definitely believe in reaching out to ladies on the street, especially if they're young. If we get those kind of calls and we basically interview them and thoroughly find out how did they get here. And if we can work backward and find out how they got here and it was illegal, we arrest the person who brought them here, including runaways. So it's important that you never run away as well. Because if you start getting caught up in the domestic issues at home and you think running away is an option, no, it's not an option. It just makes you vulnerable to people like this. So the Miami Gardens Police Department will continue to work hand in hand with all our various partners, state, local, and federal, to address this issue in a way that makes sense.
Thank you. Our next question is for Mr. Alvin Gainey. All children are our children has been the theme of PTA. The mission for Miami-Dade County Council, make every child's potential a reality by engaging in empowering families and communities to advocate for all children. What programs, practices, or activities are already in place that support this mission?
Thank you. All children are our children is the theme of Florida PTA. It has been since 2016. Our newly installed president asked permission from our immediate past to continue the theme. We're continuing to focus on the work with regards to underserved populations. The mission that Ms. Pierre mentioned is the mission of National PTA. It is the mission of all PTAs. And it is actually in practice tonight. In practice through, in fact, recent developments in the Liberty Square housing development. Holmes Elementary is one of the schools that Dr. Vendros Mendengal, that falls within her boundaries. And that school had not had a functioning PTA. A week ago, we sat down in an exploratory process. We talked. They came up with these great ideas. And I'm a person, when you give me a great idea, I'm going to turn it back to you and say, it's your turn to make this happen. And members of that meeting said, you know what? Since parents aren't coming to PTA, we need to take PTA to parents. I said, oh, you've sat through a couple of my meetings, some of my conversations? She says, no, but these people don't come to the school. I said, well, let's go take the school to them. And this past Tuesday, they canvassed the Liberty Square Housing Project to invite parents into a PTA meeting that took place last night. They were able to restart their PTA. They're in the growing phases, but that's okay. They are better today. They are better today and moving in the direction that they weren't moving yesterday. With regards to the programs of Miami-Dade County Council, and just, I don't have a purview. I'm the immediate past president, so I won't speak on a lot of what the current president is doing because I didn't ask for permission. I'll be honest with you. But with regards to one of the things that she is doing that is public knowledge, we've got programs in place that allow our communities into us, and we go to communities. We move our meetings around. We move all of our events and resources around. On October 2nd, there'll be an event at, I would like to say Palmetto Middle School, that is geared around breaking down the ballot. We need our citizens to understand what they will go into a booth and decide on. This is a constitutional revision year. So there's a lot on the ballot that has to be explained. So that's one of the things that we're actively engaged in. Throughout my term as president from 2016 to 18, we made it a point to make our Founders Day events community events. So we left the stuffy room of the Miami Shores Country Club and we rolled up our sleeves and said we do something in communities. We went into Richmond Heights. We had free events that were open to the public. We fed communities. There's a couple of people in here that know me. Don't tell anybody. I remember the first year I stood in absolute tears because of the fact we were feeding communities. We would feed families that probably had no other option come Sunday dinner. So there are a lot of programs outside of what you may know PTA to be. We are not cookie bakers. We are not fundraisers. In fact, it's not your mama's PTA. Because if it were, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. I'm not a woman and I am not Caucasian. So it is not what we've always believed PTA to be. We are the nation's oldest, largest, and I'm just going to pat myself on the back and say most preeminent child advocacy organization. If anybody else wants to figure out how to do it, they come to us. So the programs are endless, but we can talk after this.
Next question is from Mr. Allegheny.
Okay.
The Every Student Succeeds Act, ESSA, okay, was signed into law in December 2015 under the Obama administration. This amended the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of No Child Left Behind. The Every Student Succeeds Act provides vital protection for the education of English learners, students with disabilities, students of color, and low-income children in our schools. How has the PTA informed, based when you were the president, how has the PTA informed the community, and what are some of the components that may impact the families within Miami-Dade County?
Okay, so I've noticed that every question that Daniella asked this evening is terribly loaded. But that's okay. So ESSA, Every Student Succeeds, the Every Student Succeeds Act, again, was signed in 2015. Very, very complex piece of legislation. We could talk probably for a week and we still wouldn't understand it. Not all of it. However, one of the biggest pieces with regards to ESSA was the fact that the federal government gave the mandate back to states with regards to accountability and things of that nature. So you live in that state, you govern that state, you should know what's best for that state. So each state was required to submit a plan of action with regards to ESSA implementation in each respective state. Florida submitted a plan a few times that was rejected by the federal government for one reason or another, okay? And as the Honorable Barbara Watson is grinning at me because she knows it all too well. The saddest state of affairs is the fact that our plan was approved 2 days ago. Just 2 days ago. Now we are far behind other progressive states that submitted plans. Some submitted plans the first time and they were approved. However, Florida, we won't even talk about the funding part of it, again, is behind the power curve. Some of the most notable things with regards to Florida's plan is the fact that there are no changes in accountability. Now that means that no accountability standards have changed. That does not mean that there are no accountability standards that need to change, okay? No changes there. There is an increased resource for English language learners with regards to testing them the first year, simply to kind of see where they are. The second year will be used to gain their proficiency, and then their third year will be used with regards to how well they're doing and school grading and things of that nature. Now, Florida PTA, of course, has positions with regards to the ESSA implementation that rolls down to Miami-Dade County. We use our social media, internet, websites, and all of that nature to provide this information. However, we also provide situations such as this, and sadly enough, they're not this well attended, to be able to break these things down for our parents. Because even with our plan, that I have not had the opportunity to read in its entirety for the state of Florida, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. And a lot of that work could potentially start with your visit to the polls. So one of the things that's extremely important for candidates that you may encounter, or maybe you may even catch a debate, see what their stance is on education and the implementation of ESSA here in the state of Florida. Make your, use that to make your decision when you go into a polling place.
Chief Moffitt,